We are back here today, myself, Mattia, and with Fabio. Okay, hello, Fabio. And for a new episode of our Italian Politics Explained. So we are going to touch two topics today. The first one is, we can call it a follow-up of last week, where we talk about the rising of a new party led by Vannacci, Roberto Vannacci, a former general of the Italian army. And we are gonna dig into some manifestation regarding re-immigration that occurred in Italy, and also counter protest against this manifestation. And in the second part, we will discuss about a law that is being proposed by the Democratic Party, so by the opposition, for about the right to stay in Italy, which is an attempt to sort of stop the Italians to leave, because one topic that we never discussed here, but which is quite important, is the emigration of Italians overseas. We talk always about immigration in Italy, but emigration is another topic. So I'm gonna leave it to Fabio now, that he's gonna start talking about the re-immigration issues, and then we're gonna move to the immigration issues in the second half.
Thank you, Mattia. So last Saturday in Rome, in the lovely, quite posh neighborhood of Prati, there has been the rally of Futuro Nazionale. This movement started by Roberto Vannacci, the so-called general, a nickname that I personally really dislike. It feels really biased, but I think it's worked greatly for him. The main theme for the rally was remigration and reconquest. Parallelly, in different parts of the city, anti-fascist and anti-racist movement gathered for a counter rally to reaffirm the importance of migration, but I would say integration as well. The second rally was bigger, actually. We're talking about tens of thousands of people in both rallies, and they both were successful, the organizers, really. What really caught my interest, it was the name of the rally of the party of Vannacci. It was Remigration and Reconquest, as I said before. So Reconquest has a really odd sound. It reminds me of the reconquest of the Spaniards on the Arabs in the Iberic Peninsula, and I think it kind of comes from Vox, the ultra-right sister party in Spain, and it has the function to reaffirm that remigration is just not just about sending people back to the country where their family were born, but also to fight them on a deeper level. I heard a few statements about some politicians from the rally, and they were incredibly calm and reassuring. They didn't say any too crazy things. They kind of kept it polite and plain for for being accepted to a broader audience. But then you will see the images and you will hear the chants singing Duce Duce, which is like Dux Dux, the title of Mussolini. you will see lots of Roman salutes, which is the fascist salute, and you will see the people who joined and who also organized the rally, which was a large part of the fascist Roman political community. So you clearly had um, these two opposites in this movement, trying to show a clean face to the media, and then grow and nourish the far left fascist base into a much bigger movement. How did you see this rally, Mattia?
If I don't know where to start. Uh, I mean, I believe that what you said is correct. However, it's not a surprise. When this kind of thing happens, usually the fascists, especially in a country like Italy, where historically fascists have been always present, even after the end of the Second World War, they are sort of waiting for this occasion to do some mess. I don't know how to call it, and they sort of easily join this kind of events. I would say so. It's not a surprise in that regard. About the phenomenon, a bit more in general, it's clear that immigration is going to be the main topic in next years. And the reason is quite simple. There is an important part of the European population, not only the Italian population, and in this regard, I believe that Italy is still better off most of countries. If we compare to UK or just seen in Belfast, for example, or France, Italy is better off. We can clearly say that. However, is going to be the main topic in the next years, because what had happened is that there was a massive underestimation of the immigration in Europe and the effects of the immigration and the reaction of the public opinion about immigration. There was a sort of uh, hope that a multicultural society would have worked without effort, and it's clearly not happening. And people are reacting to that. I don't agree with Vannacci, what Vannacci is saying, or what that political party, that those political parties in those areas, they claim they want to do, is completely nonsense. Remigration and so on, or conquest, reconquest, as you say, is completely nonsense. But the problem is there and is felt by people. And we can do nothing about this. Because it's felt by people, it matters. I don't know how to say. You know? And if of one, then another opinion I have is one discussion that is always one argument that the left, in this case probably the people that they were in the counter manifestation, in the counter protest, they would say is that there is always a wrong perception of of uh, of what is going on. Okay, so there is frequently a wrong perception about what is going on. While we are welcoming Edoardo that he's joining us, there is a wrong perception of about what's going on is frequently bigger. The danger is not as big as these people think. Usually, when there is a crime like the one that happened in Belfast, it's sort of it's sort of the media say, or this political party they say, they describe this as an everyday thing almost, while frequently it happened once, that's it, end of the story, or at least not many times, but still it's happening. So it's not also to. So I believe that both position, the left and right, while the right is trying to make these events bigger than they are, the left is trying to minimize them. And so so you are in this sort of situation in which the people are clearly going on the right side in this moment. They are believing more the right side that is making this stuff bigger, bigger, and bigger than what they really are. So what should be done if it's not too late is trying to I would say govern immigration and to have a real immigration policy, a serious one that is necessary in Italy, like is necessary in France or Spain or UK, and this is what moderate parties should do. Otherwise, these far right parties they're gonna take over and end of the story.
Yeah, I think you are definitely right. You touch a few points. I will keep our perspective over the Italian uh, scene because that's what we know. We know better. UK, France, they have all different stories that are much more colonial than ours, and that's where the basis of their immigration comes from. Other estimations from center and center left, yes, it has been a thing. I still remember my teenage years thinking that multicultural world uh, could have been easy to reach and a easy win-win for both parties. Now we realize that it's not easy, but I still do believe that it is a necessary goal because in a globalized world with such big population imbalances and ease of movement, you can't keep the border sealed, really. In our case, in the Italian case, it wouldn't even make sense because our population is quickly declining and we need labor in so many different sectors. So a well-studied and applied immigration policy is really necessary. And we all speak from Australia, which is a country that was born over a genocide, but also over immigration. Immigration first from the West, then from everywhere in the world. And here things go on fairly smoothly. I would say more smoothly than Italy. Criminal activity is strong in both countries, but the sense of insecurity, I feel like it is stronger in some parts of Italy because Italian police is not really used to do that kind of groundwork where they just keep the presence in each neighborhood strong and kind of reassure population, which is something that, for example, I have in mind British police, the Bobbies, always have done. That people is moving to the right, I think it is partially correct. I will be curious to see if there is a dramatic shift or not. What is definitely sure is that Vannacci has the ability, thanks to immigration, to set the agenda, and that is a huge power, especially for the upcoming elections. I still remember a few months ago, maybe a couple of months ago, Salvini and the League Party organized a rally in the center of Milan that was supposed to be about remigration. Then, at the very last minute, they had to rebrand the whole thing because I don't know why they had to drop the remigration theme. And so it came out something really weird where the supporters were happy about it because they want to rally for remigration and they couldn't. And the politicians on the stage kept it really vague. So I'm thinking that was one of the breakthrough moments for what's called Futuro Nazionale, the new part of Vannacci, where people realize that the instances that the racist instances that once were at the core of the league were not part of their political message anymore, and then lots of free room was there politically for a new movement that it happened to come up really quickly. Edo, did you want to add anything on that? Any impression from Rome? I see today you know much better than any of us.
Yeah. Just before talking about that, we briefly touched upon the whole remigration and last week, but also like just chatting about it a bit offline. And I think my main thing that I was sort of mentioning there is I think it's a marketing campaign that some of the far right or right movements in Europe are launching because they are running out of campaigns and words and stuff. In Italy, it's particularly significant because the people that are in power in Italy, in the party that's governing, is meant to be doing what the far right is sort of protesting against, which is remigration. That's what they were saying 4 or 6 years ago. But I think it's a lot to do with marketing in the sense of, like just coming up with a word and pushing for something that either they haven't done or something that just helps them getting some votes. I don't really know exactly what it means. When I look into, and when you actually look into the laws of some of the things they're proposing, it sounds like it's already there and it's just expulsion of people that commit crimes that are immigrants. And then there's other parts of it, which is the second, third generation, which just sounds like impossible to do, which is like you're a second generation, you commit crime, we send you back. It's like, it doesn't work like that. If you're a citizen and you're a second generation, like maybe if you hold dual passport, we can revoke one. But if you're born and raised in Italy, and you're eligible for a second passport in whatever country your parents are from, doesn't mean you can revoke your own passport. Like it just can't just do it. So that's just my reflection I have. And we can talk about, obviously, you guys already touched upon a lot of other things, so I'm not going to go there, but I mostly agree. On the topic about Rome and sort of generally speaking about like big cities, stations, and the perception that people get living in the cities in Europe is obviously, I think it's inflated, but it's definitely there in terms of perception of unsafety. If you look at the some of the stats, they don't align with the perception. I'm not saying like it's super safe. I'm not saying it's super unsafe. I'm just saying that when you look at the worst crimes possible, which is obviously homicide and stabbings and so on, they haven't skyrocketed at all. Homicides have sort of gone down in the last decades. It's sort of plateau-ish, like this. The rate of decline is slowing down, but it's still sort of declining. But to answer your question, the perception is where the biggest problem is. And it is partly tied with, I think, what Mattia was saying, which is what I would define between like the sort of the black and white, so the left and the right. On one side, the guys are like, big talks, we're going to do this, sort of racist, whatever, slurs and all of that. But they've actually proven in 4 years that they're not doing anything. But bringing that talk up means the people that perceive the unsafety think those people are going to do something about it, even though they haven't, and they've been in power for 4 years. On the other end, which is probably where they're losing votes, is I think there's an ignorance meaning you're ignoring that there is a bit of a problem there, and you're not providing a solution. What Mattia said about managing this problem is what's missing. I wouldn't say even it's a problem. I would say like managing immigration and having system in place that can convert that into a net positive. I'm not saying it's not net positive. I think it's already is a net positive. Nearly we have 7 million immigrants. Most of them are contributing to economy, culture, and everything, right? There is a tiny minority that probably doesn't even fall in those stats, that obviously doesn't have a document, doesn't have a visa, that for all sorts of reasons have a much higher, and we can go into the reasons, but have a much higher crime. Like there's a lot more crimes happening, and part of that is also linked to the fact that they don't have documents, and to the fact that there's, running away from situations where obviously there's been all sorts of issues, and so they carry with them probably a lot of trauma, a lot of things that can lead to negative outcomes. And so there's a humanitarian question there that needs to be addressed, and there's also an aspect of, like, just generally speaking, what are we going to do about it? But the problem is, I think there is definitely a problem. It's inflated. It can be addressed, and then I don't think at the moment, sadly, we see any of these two sides really proposing it. And this is like a thing, even in countries where I think immigration is much better managed, such as Australia. I think the problem is there too, right? And it's more to do with what I would call like supportive fans thing, rather than an actual real problem. When you look at Australia, when you look at rising parties such as One Nation, I think that part of, like, yes, talk about immigrations and that being a problem is part of the rise of these parties. But I think the main reason, and it ties back to referendums and all sorts of things, like losing the governing party, losing votes, is to do with the fact that when you go to power, governments tend to lose votes because they're not addressing problems, and because problems are way more complex to address than what we see during the electorate campaign or during the polls. So I'll close it up there. I talked a lot, but essentially I think the problem is way more complex, hard to solve, and not being able to address it is causing parties to lose votes in power, and the oppositions to gain more votes.
Yeah. Is I like what Edoardo said at the beginning. Like they move from stopping present and future immigration to promising cancel the past immigration. It's sort of is a nice way to I think it's a funny way to describe it. Like they cannot promise again to cancel to stop the present and future immigration. And so now they aim higher and they say, oh, we will cancel the past one.
Second, third generation.
It's like, and that's the thing. I feel that we can sort of move on the other side, which is the immigration.
Let me just add one thing, Mattia, because when we talk about immigration, it always strikes me how we tend to not mention the millions of people that work in our fields from the north to the south. They have no documents, and they are forced in a situation, in a gray zone, where they can't be legal, they can't be hired, and they're just exploited to work 10 to 12 hours in the fields, in almost every condition, and then live in sheds. The League and the far-right government disassembled, defunded integration programs and structures. And these are the results. If crime rates are getting higher, which are not, but the sense of insecurity, it is getting worse and worse, and that is real, is also due to that. Because our politicians don't want to manage the issues that are on the deck. And that was all. I'm always very bitter about that. It feels like the far right and the right, it's just speculating on it. It inflates the problem to then grow their electorate pool,
Yeah, this is an interesting point. Like without immigration as topic, it would be complicated to the right to gain votes. So they need the problem to be there.
And
Yeah.
it looks like they keep it.
Yeah,
keep
we discussed it. I think Edoardo brought this up last time, and yeah, it's true. It's true. Is I don't even know what to say, but it is a bit evident. Also considering the fact that is the last argument is sort of the electoral campaign of this kind of parties. It relies on this specific topic. I would say 80-90%. So it's not that is one of the n number of topics, is the topic, and all the rest is sort of in the background. All the rest of the topics, all the rest of the arguments, the issues, the problem, whatever is in the background. Which means that if you remove this one, they are not left with much. So yeah, I perfectly agree with that.
Yeah, like the idea that essentially you mismanage immigration benefits you who criticize the mismanagement of immigration. So it's like a loophole. But I think what surprises me the most, because this is so obvious, right? But I think it's to do with like how the news is consumed. But like it's so obvious that this was a situation 4, 8, 12, 16 years ago, right? Like you always have the opposition having this, but now like we're at the end of this, one of the longest government that Italy has ever had, with in power the people that were in opposition really like literally, that was, as you said, 80% of their argument was that they took 4 years, they didn't do anything. And when I say anything, they actually net negatively did something, which is wasted lots of money with nonsense programs in Albania, trying to follow some crazy example set by the UK about like, hey, let's spend, stupid money in a foreign country to send few people there, and like thinking that would disincentivize. Like it's so nonsense, but the amount of money wasted, and again, this fits the narrative. It was like, this didn't work because the judges, because there was like some courts that sort of ruled out, hey, this is not working, you can't do that. And so it fits the narrative of who's thinking or pretending they're fixing something, saying, we did try, but the judges stopped us. It's not our fault. We were solving the problem. It's like, no, you were not solving the problem. You had sent a few hundred people to some foreign countries with no solution to the problem, just symbolically. And now you're sort of blaming it. And I'm sure this is going to come up in the next elections. But what's really surprising is the electorate. And I think this, I don't want to like deviate too much, but I think there's a problem with journalism as well in Italy, right? Like on both sides, which is, you should bring this up as journalists, this news, and the fact that this had no changes been made in the last 4 years. The people that are now saying the same thing are the same people who were in power for these 4 years. I mean, the guy who's the general is actually like, he was vice secretary of the Liga, who has been in power for these 4 years. Like it's just crazy. I'll pause it there, but
Yeah, it's like they need to do something because they promised to do something, but without overdo, because they need the problem to be there.
yeah.
And partially, I don't even think they will be capable of resolving that.
Yeah.
Because,
Yes,
for
yeah,
example,
yeah.
they're not capable of getting the economic situation any better. So
to close it off, I think we discussed this today, sync outside the meeting, but I think there's like a couple of things that I think could be done very quickly, very high level, sort of more on a positive note, because all this is negative. And I think for Italy specifically, we sort of discussed, I don't know if you mentioned it while I wasn't here, but like creating a system and a legislation that enables and facilitates skilled immigration visa. That's one thing. The other thing, which Fabio, you talked about, which I think it's like net positive, which is those people that are actually in Italy working, contributing, but are irregulars, like almost have a forcing function to make sure they are regular, they get a permanent residence or whatever, because it benefits everyone. It benefits Italy, it benefits the person that's there. There's also some negatives there because they can't underpay them, so that's probably why they don't do it. And then the third thing, which is probably the hardest one, but it fits, I think, overall with this, is have a bit of a long-term plan of what do you want immigration to look like, what those numbers look like, what are the projections, and how, based on how much resources you're going to allocate to make sure the immigration works, and based on what the country also needs. Because it's not just, there's the humanitarian aspect, which I think is super important, of like, you know, we live in this world, but there's also like what Italy situation is in this world and how Italy as a country can benefit. So you have you have a win-win sort of situation, and I think this third point is probably the hardest one to find a solution that everyone can agree on. It's obviously going to be decided by who's in power, and I think no one's doing either of the three. So I'll pause it there. But keen to hear.
I mean, you're basically saying that Italy needs an immigration policy, and now it's not there.
Yeah.
In brief, I would say this: we need an immigration policy, and at the moment we have none.
Or whatever we have is, it's like a reactive policy based on, we've got all these people, let's try to put a patch on this thing, and then another patch, and then another patch there, and it's like, this thing is full of patches and not working. As opposed to Australia, which Fabio mentioned earlier, like when you have a history where you're founding your country on immigration, then you need to be a bit more proactive. We had obviously historically terrible thing like White Australia policy, whatever. We had all sorts of shit, but I think throughout time that improved. There are some things, I don't know if you talked about it, Mattia, that you raised, like that are not working, or like creating these visas for highly competent people, but no one's applying, no one's using them. So not everything works, but it's definitely a benchmark that you can look at for improvement.
But I mean, there you can discuss about how to improve it, but you have something. You have a system.
You have a system, which is the most important thing.
Yeah, you have a system.
If you try to migrate to Italy, you see, you have no place to gather information. You have no clear pathway. It is extremely poor.
Yeah, if you want, like the problem in Australia is for highly skilled people. They had another visa before. They canceling. They create a new one because the previous one wasn't working, and now this one is working like this. So they have a specific problem in a system that is working. In Italy, there is no system. This is probably the situation we're having. But if you all agree, we can move briefly to the immigration issue. So the other side, the opposite side of the problem, which is Italians leaving Italy, and this proposal that I think is not the first one, it's not going to be the last one. But the left party, the main party in the left, that is the Democratic Party, I think they deposited the law, like they proposed the law, and is basically giving an increase in salary, taxing companies, basically companies that are making a high net profit. Then I'm not gonna be too specific in that because I will be too long. Plus, there is some other measures, including some benefits for startup or companies that are owned by young people and young Italians, and also some money for extra PhD students, scholarships, especially in the south of Italy. I don't know. I will give you very brief my opinion. Maybe then I will say more later. 200 euros is little. It's not enough to say, if you earn only 1,000 euro a month, you get 1,200, and it's a lot. This is a sort of populistic way of describing this proposal. When you go to Switzerland, you get 6,000 a month. Okay. About the rest, what I can say that the money are very little for all these proposals. The money that are put in the law are very little, which means that it's going to be a negligible effect. And about the high skilled people like PhD, etc., there we would probably open a very wide and very huge topic, which I don't know we can discuss today, but it might need a discussion in a separate in a separate episode, because we should start talking about the university system in Italy. We should start discuss about also the industry and entrepreneurs world in Italy, and so on and so forth. So I leave it to you for now, guys. Maybe I will ask something later. I don't know what you think of the matter in general.
Yeah, I think this proposal from Ellie Schlein to tackle the exodus of young Italians, it's a pretty good summary of the center-left approach to redistribution. Taking money from extra profits, but it's not really clear where from. Lots of people talk about extra profits during the energy crisis. I'm sure that they still consider extra profits being the energy so still so expensive. But the money doesn't really add up. It has been calculated that 700 million will be necessary each year to cover these measurements for around 250,000 of people, which is not a huge pool. So it looks like a big sum of money, a little sum of money for each, but a big sum of money for a country that is already spending so much in repaying previous debts. I'm not saying that nothing should be done, but maybe an approach where you think also how to make grow the economy and then take the resources from there would be more effective. And yeah, my criticism to this approach is that it feels a little bit like a wish list. So the right to stay bill, the so-called bill, comprehenses free public transport for off-site students, measurement to tackle housing crisis, and rental stress. As you said, PhD grants and support for innovative enterprises. All these issues are real, but I struggle to see how all these huge issues can be resolved just taking money from extra profits. It doesn't seem totally realistic. What's your take, Edo?
Yes, my take before I share my take, I'd love to hear Mattia's perspective on universities in a separate episode. So let's park that. Given you work in universities, I'm very keen to hear Italy, Australia, and so on. This is way more of a problem. Before I talk about the Democratic Party's solution to the problem, this is way more of a problem than immigration. It's both long-term, short-term, and in the past few decades, the net emigration or outflow of skilled young people from Italy is like bananas. It's insane. Like hundreds of thousands of people every year leave the country. We are an example of them, and it's like a net loss for all sorts of reasons. And I'm obviously in favor of people exploring the world and going around and everything, but the fact that they don't come back, it's a big problem. And so just before thinking about the solution that the Democratic Party put in place, need to understand the problem. And the problem stems from so many things, which is often a combination of the opportunities the individual is getting overseas, the access you get to education, the level of education, the meritocracy, there are so many things in there that Italy lacks and pushes someone to initially go overseas, but actually it's what keeps you overseas as opposed to coming back. And the few cases that I've heard that went back came back to Australia. So in the case, obviously this is anecdotal, but a few people I've known that went back to Italy, then came back to Australia. After, coming to Italy first, staying a few years, then going to Italy, is like, I miss Italy, I miss the country, and then came back. There's more examples in Europe as well. Now, what the Democratic Party's solution is, and you've sort of said it, like 200 euros per month after tax for under 35, plus a few extra things to improve buying a house, like a few other things in their incentives. It obviously doesn't solve the problem. It's similar to what we're talking about before, is like, it's a simple thing you can communicate as elections are coming to try and hopefully get some votes, a bit of marketing, but it doesn't solve a complex problem. A complex problem requires a wide, holistic approach solution to the country, and it's hard to explain, and you can't just put 200 euros, boom, put it on a bloody banner, advertise, and send it out there. And it's a problem that it's worldwide. Not just Italy does this, like Australia has done this in sort of campaigning, electoral campaigns, so it's not just Italy. But besides not being a solution, what I really, and you've touched upon this, about how is the parties proposing to cover the expenses, these 200 euros, that is really what is also like very frustrating. Because if you are saying you're going to put these 200 euros, that's a recurring expense that the government needs to make every single year. What they're saying is we're going to cover it through some other taxes, mainly being driven by the tax on extra profit. Now, I don't want to get into this topic. The word extra profit is mostly made up and doesn't really exist. But let's accept that extra profit as a word and as a thing exists. By definition, if you're defining an extra profit, it's not recurring. It's a one-off. So there's a misbalance. Like, it's literally, you don't understand basic accounting if you want to put a recurring expense and cover it with a one-off revenue maker thing. That, as you said, maybe energy prices are up, extra profit, boom, this year. But next year, how are you going to pay for this? The following year again? And so this is a problem with all these proposals, whether it's about 200 euros, or we had 80 euros a few years ago. We had all sorts. We discussed the super bonus and all those things in a few episodes. So it's not a solution, to summarize. It's not a solution. Secondly, even if you assume it would solve something, it's not instrumented in a way that it's fundable and long-term fundable by the way they've structured and they've argumented it. And then the third thing is, which is what I sort of mentioned at the start, it's not addressing at all, focusing on what the problems are. It's again marketing, which is probably similar to the other side of remigration, what we just discussed. It's marketing. It's not. I'll pause it there.
I will give you any information and data, like every 9 Italian living, there is only one person coming from an OECD country to Italy. You know?
Sorry, say it again.
Every 9 Italian living, there is only one person from an OECD country coming to Italy.
Wow.
So this also to sort of merge the discussion with immigration. When you're talking about, I want to select the immigration, I want to have an immigration policy. When you compare the people leaving and the people coming, this is what you have. Italians go to OECD country, so the Organization of Economic Development and blah blah. But no one from those countries goes to Italy. This is the situation. Yeah. And about Italians going back, they don't go back. Now there is of course. Some people, they go back because now there is this sort of law that allows you not to pay taxes for 5 years or 10 years if you buy a house or if you have kids, I don't know. but then they leave again after, at the end of this free taxes or low taxes period, how you want to call it, which means that you don't go back to stay forever, indefinitely. So yeah, I agree with what you say, guys. The is a bit of propaganda here in a situation in where you need to do a complete reform, a complete restructuring of what is the fiscal laws in Italy, the pension system in Italy, the meritocracy in Italy. We could talk about the university, etc., etc. You will need to do that. You need to be brave enough to act there. Instead of doing that, you try again to waste money on a very little thing that is going to have zero effect, and it's not sustainable long term for what Edoardo just said. And that's it. There is no much else to say, in my opinion.
Beautiful. It was lovely to chat with you, chaps.
Yeah. Great chatting,
I
guys.
think, yeah, it was. We went really deep in both topics, and I hope to see you next week.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. See you next week. Share, watch the video, put like,
Subscribe.
and subscribe, and see you soon.